Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and today it is another video in my 2023 NFL offseason prediction series, and we're going to talk today about the Detroit Lions. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my offseason prediction videos, any of my mock drafts, or any of that stuff that's going to be coming this year. And let's talk about the Detroit Lions, though. What a Cinderella story. What a Cinderella story. Certainly overachieved. They were half a game away from making the playoffs. That loss to Seattle in week 4, I think it was, ended up being the difference for them in the year. They just needed one more win. They needed to find one win somewhere. They just couldn't do it. But man, does it really look like they're the team that's in charge of that division going forward. They have 4 picks in the first, I think it's the first 60 at least, unless Minnesota goes on a run and makes it to the Super Bowl. If Minnesota's one and done, they got 4 picks in the top, I believe it would be the top 55 picks. That is unbelievable for a team that is actually overachieving significantly and has been making great use of their draft picks. You know, Jameson Williams came in late, but that was always going to be a long-term selection. He was injured when they drafted him, but when he's played, he's looked like he could really tear the top off of a defense and really put use to Jared Goff, who, by the way, completely shocked everyone. People thought he was on his way out, especially when they were 1-6. It was like, okay, it's going to be Bryce Young, it's going to be CJ Stroud, it might even be Will Levis. But then Jared Goff turned it on with that entire offense with help of Ben Johnson, who probably won't be around. You could see that I've used him in a previous video to be a new head coach somewhere else. But man, oh man, what an exciting team. And they're doing it with low amounts of money spent. They have a very, very cap-friendly situation going into this year where they can make a real impact. And there's not a whole lot of needs that they really need to address, at least on the offensive side of the ball. You know, they got one of the better O-lines in the league. They got a great receiving group that they can keep replenishing, you know, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams. They have Jamal Williams, who's an impending free agent, but I don't see them letting him go anywhere. And they have the opportunity to perhaps add to that running back room in the draft. Man, see, I'm getting the hiccups. I'm so excited to talk about Detroit. But one of the key points that has made Detroit so great this year is where we're going to start this video, and that is with the head coach, Dan Campbell, MCDC, baby. So when Dan Campbell was brought in to coach this team, it did have one and done sort of written all over it. He came in super hyped up, though. He was that young, new head coach who was looking to create a brand new culture on a team that was in desperate need of it. And I think that he did an amazing, amazing job in that first year, despite them coming, second to last in the NFL. I think that there was still a lot of optimism that came out of that season, just in the way that he conducted himself, the way that team played, how motivated they were every week. They were losing some really tight games that year, and people were saying, and I think rightfully so, man, if they just figure it out, all they got to do is figure it out, and they will become one of the better teams in the league. And then this year, halfway through the season, it happened. They started to figure it out. They started to win games. They went on an absolute tear and were able to finish the season 9-8. A 500 record, above 500 record for the Detroit Lions. Amazing. And also, as if it was always serendipitous, somehow, some way, the Rams stunk and gave them, which I think is the 6th overall pick in the draft this year. I think it's number 6. Yes, it's number 6. Incredible. And these are the rankings that Dan Campbell brought to this team in coordination with his position coaches and his coordinators Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. And we'll start here with the offensive rankings, and this is where it's really the most impressive because they were 5th in points scored, 6th in passing yards, 11th in rush yards, 3rd in total yards. They were 8th in passing touchdowns, 3rd in rush touchdowns, 4th over. They were in the top 10 in almost every major offensive category except 3rd down percentage. They were 14th. Rush yards, they were 11th. But turnovers, 2nd. Sacks, 2nd. Red zone percentage, 4th. unbelievable. And that's what I think is really going to get Ben Johnson a head coaching job this next upcoming offseason. Depends on where it is. I predicted it would be with the Colts, I think. Check my Colts video. Yes, I think that's where it was. Because to bring him in to work with an offense, with a strong running game, try to build that offensive lineup. And this is where, and you look at, again, Detroit's roster, there's not a lot of money spent in a lot of spots here, so they've opened themselves up to be really successful with a lot of these guys that are on smaller contracts. Now on the defensive side, a lot of what we're going to see with the defense is based upon what happened in the first half of the year. After their bye week, they really started to get it together with Aaron Glenn and the position coaches and the defensive players in general. They were able to find guys in the right spots, in the right positions. The young players were starting to get it a little bit more. But they were so far in the crapper with the points. You can see there, the pass yards 30th. They were last in yards given up, which is not great. 30th in total touchdowns, 27th in red zone percentage, 30th on third down percentage. They were in the bottom half of the league for sacks, bottom half of the league for turnovers. But you saw what happened when they finally got it together. That offense was rolling pretty much all year, and the defense finally caught up. The defense finally started to do their part to help the offense in those games where maybe they weren't at their best. Maybe they weren't firing on all cylinders, and the defense was able to keep them in games to allow the offense to find themselves throughout the game, make the adjustments, and then to finish the games and to win it. We saw that in the last week against Green Bay. So it's going to be interesting to me as they continue to add talent onto this defense. There's a lot of places where they can add the talent to, so it's going to be an interesting offseason for them. And it all starts with the amount of money they have to spend, which on its face doesn't look like a lot, but then when you go into the contracts that they can get out of, oh my goodness, this is going to be a dangerous offseason. So as you can see, their starting cap, $18 million. Doesn't seem like a lot, right? Doesn't seem like a lot to move. But then when you start looking at some of these veteran contracts, and that's where we'll start. We'll start with the cuts. Josh Reynolds, $3.2 million in cap savings. Haloti Vaitai, $9 million in cap savings. Michael Brockers, $10 million in cap savings. Romeo Okwara, $11 million in cap savings. Charles Harris, $6 million in cap savings. Now, why do you cut those guys? Well, Josh Reynolds is what, wide receiver 4? Vaitai is probably the worst of the offensive linemen that you have that you can replace him with a smaller rookie contract. Brockers is on the wrong side of 30, making double digits. Romeo Okwara has, with the drafting of Aiden Hutchinson, the emergence of James Houston towards the end of the year, his brother Julian Okwara, maybe a more affordable deal, and the possibility of being able to add someone like a Miles Murphy or a Tyree Wilson to really complete that edge rushing group. Why not dump the $11 million? Romeo Okwara's role was going to get less and less anyway. Same thing with Charles Harris making $6 million. So you get rid of $17 million on two guys, and you can now add to other positions while in the draft, in those strong areas in the draft, which is particularly in the front 4, especially in that top 10 area. You're going to be able to replace that guy and that guy's production quite easily. And I'd say the same thing with Michael Brockers as well. Then when you get to that second and third round, Haloti Vaitai can be replaced. But then you have the other guys on the offensive line, which is one of the best offensive lines in the league. Taylor Decker and Frank Ragnow. You can actually restructure their deal, extend them a little bit, and you can save $8.5 million and $7.9 million respectively in doing that. What that does for you now, with all that cap savings, there's not a lot of players that necessarily need to be brought back, especially not guys on big deals. The biggest one is Jamal Williams, which $8 million cap hit. That's pretty reasonable for a running back. You know, it's a bigger contract for a running back for sure, but I think he definitely earned it by leading the league in touchdowns this year, rushing touchdowns. He's really that guy who's that finisher at the goal line. And when DeAndre Swift got hurt, he was able to take over as a starter and really keep that train rolling. Now, do you want him to be that guy all the time? I think he really has served at his best as that short yardage guy, that goal line beast. So maybe you look to getting a guy to be a complement to him and pair him up with someone. Jamal Williams has always been at his best when he's been part of a duo anyway, going back to his time in Green Bay. Then you got Evan Brown, who did a great job replacing Frank Ragnow when he was injured. He was playing center. He would play guard. He's a great guy to have as that fourth interior offensive lineman on the roster. And I think you can get him at $2 million. That's a really easy, nice, light contract. And then I liked Isaiah Buggs. I thought he had a decent year when he was playing. So why not continue with him? $3 million cap hit. And at the worst case, I think you can get the same amount of production out of him that you would if you kept Michael Brockers instead, and you're doing it for $7 million cheaper. So I think that's just a win-win situation overall for this team. So now what that leaves you with is $61 million. We brought back 3 guys, and we increased our spending cap by like almost $40 million. $34 million? Amazing. I'm a great GM. You guys should hire. Someone should hire me. Shouldn't somebody hire me? Let's talk about the team needs and how you would spend the $61 million. And like we said, on the offense, not a whole lot of needs. You probably need a guy to come in and start on the interior of the offensive line. At least a guy that you can potentially develop to be a starter at some point in the year. You might need a tight end. You got rid of TJ Hawkinson. Your offense doesn't really serve a tight end anyway, but it would be nice to have one if you can get somebody that's of quality that's worth it. But I think the main focus should be on the defensive side of the ball. And that's really where I think a lot of the focus will be for their offseason, including once you get to that free agency, because, ooh boy. So there are 2 free agents that really jump off the page for me. The first one was Jonathan Jones to come in and play corner next to Jeff Okudah. You can afford to sign a cornerback and then still perhaps draft one with your first round pick, like a Christian Gonzalez or something. And I think that would be still something where you're not wasting the pick, because you really need 3 quality corners on the team. Jeff Okudah really broke out. Jonathan Jones comes in, brings some experience, and then whatever rookie you get, it gives that rookie time to sort of work his way into it. You're not throwing him into the fire the way you did with Okudah. And then I saw Jesse Bates, and this contract would make him the highest paid safety in the NFL. The $19 million cap hit is the same one as Derwin James, who has the most average per year cap hit for a safety. So I just matched it. They could make it 20. But I do feel like if he was going to stick around in Cincinnati, that he would have signed already. So I'm not sure that he does stay around in Cincinnati. I think he would hit the market, and then Detroit would be that team to really throw the money at him, pair him up with Kirby Joseph, and who had a breakout rookie year. And what a difference it makes on your back end. That's going to make all the world of a difference for those young guys that you're going to have in your front 4 rushing the passer. It's going to make things a lot easier for your linebackers. They're going to be able to play more instinctively in coverage. Not worry about those double moves. Stay with those drag routes a bit longer. Focus on attacking and not worried about, am I going to get beat over the top because the safety's not going to be there, or the secondary's going to get beat. There's so many things that can come down the line with this. And adding 2 really experienced guys who are quality, especially Jesse Bates, who in my opinion is one of, if not the best safety in the league. And spending not even less than half of what you got, and you get 2 high quality starters for your defense, 2 gigantic upgrades with still all that draft capital left. I think that this is the most ideal way to spend their free agency going into the draft strategies. And like I said, $32.5 million to sign your draft picks and fill out your rosters. Now, because they have 2 first-round picks and they have 2 second-round picks, I don't know if they have 2/3. I think they only have 1/3. They might have 2/3 also. I could be wrong. But they have a lot of those picks on the first 2 days. And so you're going to need a little bit extra money to sign the draft picks unless you trade out of the first round with the second one, which I wouldn't do that. I mean, it's the 18th pick. That's a long way to trade out if you're trading out of the first round altogether. So I would just stay where I'm at, use those picks, and then you got all the roster filling stuff. Guys are going to want to play for this team, especially in that second wave of free agents who are generally the older players who are looking to more fill roles that were maybe, higher end starters that are now more replacement level starters. what you can do with the culture that you've built and with the extra money, you could really have a good roster fill in that second and third wave of free agency. But here is what I would do to strategize for the Detroit Lions. And I've done, mock drafts in the past with Detroit where it's been, sort of the same idea. But what I've been seeing a lot lately is people giving Bijan Robinson to them with that second first round pick. And the more I think about it, really do agree with that. You get Bijan, you can trade DeAndre Swift for whatever, early day 3 pick to whatever team, and then you pair up Bijan Robinson with Jamal Williams. That is an amazing 1-2 punch of a group. Bijan can do all the flashy stuff that you were hoping DeAndre Swift could do. It could stay healthy enough to do. And then Jamal Williams is the hammer that comes down at the goal line in those short yard situations when you need to wear down that team. That's the Jamal Williams role. You can even have Bijan Robinson split out a bit. He's a better receiving back than most. So there's a lot that you can do with him. I still say that with that first pick, you hold where you're at and you draft either a corner or somebody in the front four. But there's a lot of possibilities there for them. It can be Christian Gonzalez. It can be Tyree Wilson. It can be Miles Murphy. It can be Brian Breezy. There's a lot that you can do with that pick to get an instant impact player. And there's 3 positions there, and they're really top heavy in that sense where, you could probably go and draft Brian Breezy and then come in on day 2 with a second round pick and then take one of the corners because the corner class is really deep. Or if you feel like maybe you can get more of a role player like Mozzie Smith who drops a bit, or Gervin Dexter who might drop a bit in that second round, then maybe you do draft the corner Gonzalez with that first pick. But I do think they got to dedicate that second first round pick to getting Bijan Robinson. And then on day 2, with the second round picks and the third round picks, get a guard. A Luke Weipler I think would be really good for them. Maybe Andrew Voorhees drops for you a little bit. And then you get a linebacker. You get somebody like a Jack Campbell, a Deion Henley, or the most romantic of all of it, which is Noah Sewell, who might have played his way into being a late second, early third round pick. So this might play right into the hand of Detroit to be able to maybe wait until that third round to get Noah Sewell rather than taking him in the second, which I think a lot of people have been anticipating throughout the college football season is where he would go. But there's been a lot of linebackers that have come up that have maybe been playing him down the board a bit. I don't necessarily think that that's because of his own lack of ability. I think that the linebackers have sort of slightly surpassed him, and he didn't do anything to really improve his stock. So then you get into that, top talent gets this a lot. Kayvon Thibodeau had it last year. Evan Neal had it too, which is called like prospect fatigue, where somebody's so highly viewed that then you spend so much time picking them apart because you've seen all the good in them. So all that's left is just pick apart and nitpick at their game. And that does drop player stock all the time. But they are in such a position based upon how the draft has been structured, based on where their picks are, and based upon how these players have performed and the way the draft has sort of seemingly been set up to play out. Their first 4 picks, perhaps even their first 5 picks in this draft, could be 5 starters, which is wild to suggest. 5 starters on a team that is 9-8, that's not going to be losing anyone of real substance, it doesn't seem. So this overall is setting up to be an amazing year for Detroit, and they are really the most exciting team, it seems. If for people where it's not their favorite team, outside of somebody's favorite team, this has got to be the most exciting team to be anticipating what they're going to do and what they're going to look like come the beginning of next year through this free agency and draft period and this offseason scheduling. And there you have it, the Detroit Lions offseason predictions. Tell me what you think in the comment section below about what I had planned. If I was the Detroit Lions, it was a lot of fun to make this video. There's so much to look forward to if you're Detroit Lions fans, and it's about damn time, isn't it? It's about time. Thumbs up this video, subscribe so you don't miss any more videos, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for coming.